I just basically said I want to help. So the next thing I knew, George Weymouth had me wrestling alligators, and George Campbell did too.
Westall, first involved in relocating nuisance alligators and monitoring the local population, next stepped up to save the ospreys by forming the International Osprey Foundation to survey populations, build nesting platforms, and fund projects around the world.
From 1979 to now, we've gone from 35 to right around 100 pair, just on Sanibel.
Later, as city councilman and mayor, Westall saw legislation through that prohibited hand-feeding birds. Through the years, other city laws, true to the Sanibel Plan, protect wildlife and its habitat. Even the seashells for which Sanibel is known worldwide.
You just can't take live shells off the beach. We don't allow that. And the other thing is we don't manicure our beaches. Their beaches are left in a natural state. We don't allow any high-rise buildings on this island. And we also insist that at least 70% of the vegetation is native vegetation. We have a dark sky policy on the island, which is also unique. We don't have any street lights. We don't allow any lights to point to the sky. And it means that you can see the sky and see the stars at night.
Partnership between city and conservation agencies continues to further Sanibel's reputation as a model city and ecotourism destination.
The very first time in the country, we brought together a federal agency, a local government, and a not-for-profit for the sole purpose of conservation. So when it came to managing the freshwater wetlands, when it came to bringing Brazilian pepper under control, when it came to doing wildlife research, it only made sense to pool those resources together. And because of it, we have a more effective method for preserving this island.
In addition to land acquisition, SCCF included environmental education in its mission early on. In 1977, it opened its Nature Center near the refuge on Sanibel Captiva Road. It includes a native nursery, butterfly house, trails, observation tower, and education exhibits.
Education is absolutely essential for the conservation of those resources, but also for cost-benefit ratio. And to build that culture of conservation and that awareness of the outdoors is absolutely essential for the future of conservation. If you don't have a relationship with the land, if you don't have a relationship with the water, then that legacy of conservation and caring about those natural resources vanishes.
At Ding Darling, education has always been Objective 1 for the Friends Group. Along with refuge staff and Tarpon Bay Explorers, the refuge's concessions operator, it hosts a free week-long Ding Darling Days Eco Festival every October and, like SCCF, transports school children from throughout the county on site for educational programs. One major educational tool is the federal Junior Duck Stamp program, which began here in 1989 through the vision of an art teacher at the elementary school next door to the refuge.
We decided on having our third graders do a duck stamp, design a little duck stamp in my art class. The next year I did it with the entire school, and it worked out just to be a really great project. And in 1994 it was sanctioned by the Fish and Wildlife, and California jumped on the bandwagon, and how goes California goes the rest of the nation. And that's the duck stamp story.
Today, 50,000 students across the nation learn about habitat preservation through the federal Junior Duck Stamp program. Sanibel continues to write conservation history in other ways.
Nature's power to heal.
Recently, I think the groundbreaking one was the fertilizer ordinance, which controlled the use of fertilizer on the island such that we were not polluting our waterways. We were one of the first communities in Florida to have done this, and it became a model ordinance for the rest of southwest Florida.
Following devastation in 2004 by Hurricane Charley, the island suffered another catastrophic blow when flooding of the state's Lake Okeechobee resulted in a flush of destructive algae bloom down the Caloosahatchee River and into local waters. Fish died by the hundreds, meaning bird populations were threatened. Island citizens rebelled, effecting a grassroots movement to save their waters and wildlife.
Our supporters that are firm believers in conservation are able to shift their attention to more pressing issues, and among those is the quality of the water that surrounds the island.
Sanibel's fertilizer ordinance was one shakeout from the crisis. SCCF and individual islanders protested loudly into the ears of state and federal agencies. Moving into the future, SCCF and Ding Darling continue to work together through efforts to provide the science to back up their claims of habitat compromise. Again, education plays a key role, and island not-for-profits continue to step up efforts.
This classroom is a living classroom, as you can see. We use this pretty much to gather the children, but then to get them out into the refuge.
The Environmental Education Lab at the refuge is part of a $3.3 million education center that Ding Darling Wildlife Society built in 1999 to inform the 750,000 visitors each year to Ding Darling, the second most visited refuge in the national system. Crow, which relocated eventually to Sandcap Road, opened its new Healing Winds Visitor Education Center along with a new hospital in January 2009.
We had outgrown the old facility. When this building was built 25 years ago, they were doing about 500 patients a year. We currently do over 4,000 animals a year.
Crow, along with Ding Darling, SCCF, and the Bailey Matthews Shell Museum, which opened in 1995 to educate visitors about Sanibel's bountiful seashell population, forms something of a conservation corridor up Sandcap Road. Mostly preserved lands line the road. In fact, about 2/3 of Sanibel has been preserved and safeguarded against future development. The federal government contributed much of that, 6,150 acres on Sanibel alone. The rest? From the caring and generosity of islanders.
Crow is funded entirely by private donation, and this capital campaign also almost exclusively was funded by private donation.
Some say Sanibel has historically attracted a different, more nature-sensitive breed of people.
People that were attracted to Sanibel and Captiva were sort of selected out as those who were interested in conservation. Largely that's anchored in the refuge, and also to some extent anchored here at SCCF.
The hallmark of Sanibel was conservation, and the people who came here because it was such a beautiful natural place, and they appreciated that and they didn't want to lose it.
Some also are concerned that islander propensity toward resource stewardship is waning with a change in population trends.
We're finding a more absentee owner for the island, people who are investing in rental units and those sorts of things. And I think it's going to be a real challenge to reach those people and for them to understand that what is here on and around Sanibel and Captiva are not here by accident.
The problem with lowering human density is that you can say you want to be an environmentalist, but you may also attract a lot of people that are here because they want the rest of the people that come to Florida to go somewhere else.
The city of Sanibel was a grand experiment that has succeeded for more than 30 years. Can humans and nature continue to coexist? Can Sanibel Island still balance wildlife needs with demands from its commercial resort reputation?
The quality of the water coming down the Caloosahatchee, the population growths in all of South Florida. Those challenges from the outside are going to press harder and harder on Sanibel, Captiva, and Pine Island Sound.
In hindsight, I can say that I've been involved in a lot of the positive things that have happened on Sanibel, but it's still got a ways to go. There's still a big part of the experiment to be worked on.
In the meantime, islanders continue to support environmental causes and projects. So, whatever the future may bring, Sanibel will remain the ideal around which other communities design their land use and eco-ethic.
I don't think we were consciously thinking ecotourism. I think what we were thinking is there a way you can have a vibrant economy on an island where you keep the density under control? And basically the answer to your formula is yeah. you can do a great deal with quality that you can't do with quantity.
This island is so unique. As an educator, you can't but be proud to work here and follow in the footsteps of Ding Darling and some amazing people that are still with us today, but some that are long gone and want to continue the conservation ethic.
Ding Darling, some say, was 100 years ahead of his time in terms of understanding pressures on our natural resources. By his very presence on Sanibel and Captiva Islands, he bequeathed his forward thinking to the citizens of the two islands. From the protection of its first refuge islands to its grassroots efforts to establish first a national wildlife refuge and later a city guided by nature, Sanibel Island reflects a century of fighting to preserve its natural wonders. Such is Sanibel's legacy to a world that is now beginning to catch up with the knowledge that Ding Darling first shared more than 70 years ago.
We're really lucky. We're really lucky that people saw this, were inspired by it, and decided to work to defend it.
Sanibel sunset over the bay.
To purchase a copy of this and other WGCU-produced programs, go to WGCU.org or call 1-888-824-0030. This program was produced for the citizens of Southwest Florida by WGCU Public Media. Show your appreciation for programs like these. Become a member of WGCU, a business supporter, or leave a legacy through estate or planned gift. Call or visit our website at WGCU.org.